That's what our work
That's what I was
about.
going to ask you.
Yeah. So that what the system looks like and the different things that we could do to actually manifest it in the world. One of the remarkable things about our work is that we are studying things that are already happening. You know, there are so many things that are already happening that would make this possible. And they're just not connected to each other. One of the main missing pieces is the piece we're trying to offer, which is all these things that are happening separately for their own reasons and logic could be being done in tandem in ways that are connected, so that this larger phenomena we're talking about as wise democracy is able to be born, is coming about much quicker. So we're providing understandings and tools to help people see the place that the work they're already doing fits into the larger picture. And for those people who don't know quite what to do, but they have these longings to have something a heck of a lot better than what we got now, here's a different story to live into. You know, here's a different way to find what is meaningful to you and do it and know that it's having a particular kind of impact. So that's what, and the pattern language that we talk about, the patterns are design principles or things to keep in mind, to attend to when you're creating this kind of wise democracy. And we have 70 of them sort of at this point formalized. We expect over the future to have, 100 or more as people participate and help us think about this. But right now we have 70 different things to pay attention to. And here are guidelines for how to, once you start discerning, oh, this needs to be attended to, here are some guidelines for how to think about what to do in that realm. And then here are a bunch of tools and writings and things people are doing and offering, which already could be used to serve the manifestation of that piece of the puzzle. And then here's how the puzzle fits together in the big picture. And each piece, this piece is connected to these other pieces, and that piece is connected to these other pieces. And it's like a whole vision and a whole idea structure to guide very practical applications in actually moving ahead on the thing that this video has shown us in 30 seconds and that I've rambled about.
No, that's great. So one thing that I'd really, I guess, like to ask before we start to look at some of the patterns is, so are there some kind of things that are happening already in society? Are there some kind of specific concrete examples that you could say that point towards moving towards that place where these different realms are converging? Yeah, so
yeah, okay.
Maybe nice to hear a couple of things that you think fit the movement towards a wise democracy.
Okay. So should we just talk about them, or you want me to dig out images? Maybe
if there's a page on the pattern language that you could use to illustrate that would be great.
Okay, so we'll do one of them. The patterns, there's examples of using the wise democracy pattern language. So I'm going to take a look at something that's happening in Austria. There's an Office of Future-Related Issues in an Austrian region called Vorarlberg. So in Vorarlberg, Austria, they have an institution called Civic Councils, which is a version of a thing called Wisdom Councils developed by a consultant in the US, Jim Ruff, about 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And they have innovated it in very interesting ways. And they take Jim Ruff's process, dynamic facilitation, to facilitate a group of a couple of dozen people who are randomly selected from their state to deal with a particular issue. So these are ordinary citizens who are together for several days, and they are discussing an issue. In the mid-2015, there was a particularly hot one. Most people are, nowadays anyway, are aware of the issue of immigration and how it's shaken up politics in Europe. So they're going, what would ordinary people do if they were informed about the issues, briefings from different sides of the issue, and then explored it together using this powerful process called dynamic facilitation. And they come up with recommendations at the end, things they've discovered, things they believe, things they want to see happen. And they come up with a statement that they all agree with. And then there's a big community gathering. Anybody can come to this gathering, and they try and get media and public officials to show up at this gathering. And they do a report out. Here's what we found. Here's what our experience was. And then they organize what's called the World Cafe, which is small tables of 4 or 5 people at a table to talk about what they just heard. So the whole crowd, rather than just sitting there listening to what's going on, they're actually engaged. And the members of the Civic Council are there mixed in with them, and various leaders and politicians are mixed in with them. And they talk about this. And after that, the report goes to a group of people called the Responder Group. And it's made up of officials and organizations who have power and resources to implement some or all of the recommendations. So there's governments, there's nonprofits, there may be companies involved in it, who are given the task to try to realize in the real world what the Wisdom Council, the Civic Council, came up with. And then they report back. The one on immigration issued 2 magazines over a period of a year saying, this is where we got to so far, and here's where we got to so far. And they organize discussions in various communities to say, hey, what's going on in your community? And here's what we're thinking. There's a sense of the whole community, this whole region. They've picked a group of people. It has a similar logic to elected representatives, but instead of elected representatives who are answerable, these are ordinary people who just show up through the random selection. And it's a different kind of voice than what you get when you're dealing with politicians who are elected. So this is we the people getting special help, learning about the issue, discussing it, listening to each other, coming together around something. So they're being given privileged information and privileged process support in a way you couldn't do with the whole population. But they've come up with something, and it's like, please think this out for us and help us, the broader public, think about this. And that's what they're there for. And then it's actually implemented. It has power, and there's an answerability. They have to report back. The people who are given the responsibility to do this have to report back. So what I've done on the website is I looked at this innovation through the lens of the pattern language. So like multiple perspective views, diversity, deliberation, experts on tap, not on top, people feeling heard, diversity and disturbance used creatively. These are all patterns in what we are calling the pattern language. And they're all different places to look at what's going on. They're tools for discernment. So this is a way to look at something that already happened and look at the strengths that it has. These are things that help it be part of a movement towards a wise democracy. And then I look at, here are things that are not quite so strong. They could use, if you wanted to enhance the capacity of this to serve a wise democracy, here are some things which, if they were explicitly addressed, would enhance that power. And there's many different ways to apply all these. This is not like, okay, do this. It's like, take a look at when they're in their conversation, deep time stewardship, are they really looking at the 7th generation, or are they trying to handle the problem now? So this is one way to look at the use of this tool and the kind of leading edge. See, this is a leading edge thing, and then I analyze a more common and less sophisticated version, which is public hearings. People sitting, the ordinary people, what do they call it, the people who are passionate about this issue from different sides come. They have 3 minutes at a microphone. They talk to the officials who hardly respond. It's like, yes, this is important, and it does have people have a chance to feel heard a little bit, but there's real limits to it. And then I look at what we might do to make that innovation.
It's the kind of thing, if you scroll just up again, this is the kind of thing that we have, you know, in the UK, I imagine it's similar elsewhere, that we do have these town council meetings, these public consultations, and as it stands, people can come along, they can have their voices heard, but often the feeling is quite often the decisions have been made anyway.
Mm.
And I guess the difference here, isn't it, that in these kind of wiser democracy processes is that there's more of an equality of power, that the people are there to actually propose things rather than just
Yeah, well, there's here in this situation, you can see the actual layout.
yeah,
There's
exactly,
people
yeah,
up here who are the power people. They're up on
right,
the stage,
exactly.
and they are all together facing the masses of the public, who are situated in a way that indicates they can't act together. They can't communicate together.
Right.
They're in
That's what
rows.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
right.
the kind of an inversion. So basically, at the moment, we have the power at the top who's kind of saying, well, this is the agenda. Have you got anything to say about this agenda? We might like to tweak it here and there, depending on what we hear. Inversing that and saying, hey, we really want to hear what you think about, you know, what is the way forward here, and we are going to act as a servant. We are more of facilitator leaders now, who are going to implement your proposals. It's a completely different power dynamic, isn't it? And I guess that's the wise democracy trajectory, in a way, isn't it, to move towards
Right.
something like
But
that.
it's not just participation. You know, it's not just empowering the people. It's trying to design something so that the people can be empowered and generate wisdom instead of just messes.
Right.
We're not just talking
Right.
about mass engagement.
Yeah, I guess that's a really important piece as well, because I think right now we're living in a time where there is a call for a lot more participation, and but that participation, yeah, won't necessarily create wise outcomes. Just the fact of getting people together. I mean, if we get people from diverse perspectives together and we create right processes, yes, there is a chance of having more wise outcomes. But I guess there are a whole array of different factors and causes and conditions that can allow wise outcomes to take place.
Right.
And that's what you're looking at is here, isn't it? All these
Right.
different patterns are the factors that can go towards creating this broad and long-term benefit.
Right. And because we see, we have a broad scope of looking at lots of different dimensions as represented by the different patterns here. We look at what's going on in each of these fields and who's doing work in that field which could contribute to this larger vision we're looking at. So when we think of, you know, story sharing as something, people have a chance to share stories in a hearing. And so this is an example of what we look at when we're looking at a pattern in detail. So we have the title, we have a little picture to sort of give a sense of that, a short description. Story weaving is a primary mode of sense making and sense sharing. Sharing personal and group stories promotes empathy, social capital, which is the connection between different kinds of people, awareness, and collective intelligence. So encourage people to share stories about their experiences and longings. It will engage them and promote individual and collective shifts, discoveries, and collaborations. So this is an overall quick view of what this thing is about, and gives us a very gentle kind of theoretical guidance in it. And I was, you know, I took the time to talk, this was with the person who was working on creating the site with me, said, talk to me about why you described this pattern in this way. So there's a video of me talking about this pattern. It's 10 minutes long, and that was transcribed and then edited, and there's this whole, you know, essay that goes into depth about this. And here are examples and resources. You know, here are people who have developed things or done specific initiatives that actually manifest this story sharing in various powerful ways that you can then do. And we're trying to engage people with this pattern language in a way that they will say, oh, I know another good example of this, they'll tell us and we'll put it up here. So there'll be a growing database of actual practical things to do. And every pattern has a card that was made with it. You can download the card individually from this site, or you can download the whole set. You know, you can get a complete, you know, all 70 cards free of charge. You can download and print out yourself to play around with. The cards have the name, the picture, and these two parts of it. They don't have all this other information. You have to get that on the web. It doesn't fit on a card.
So, yeah. So these cards, potentially a group or people that are experimenting with different democratic processes can take these cards and use them to say, okay, so what's going well here? What are we missing out? So the idea, I guess, with the cards is that potentially you can expand your capacity to see broader and wiser ways of engaging in various democratic processes and filling in the gaps, perhaps, of where areas you might be missing out, or even understanding at a deeper level some of the processes you're already using.
Yeah, and there's a variety of different things. That's one approach. You can also use it to vision. You can say, look over these 70 cards. You could do it in a group with 10 people. Each person has 7 cards in their hand, and you go, what is most important to us about this initiative we're going to be starting to do? And you can, each person picks one thing that's really important out of their hand and shares it, and the group discusses it. And you go, okay, well, what do we need to know to do those things? And then you go onto the website, and find all these different resources and deepen into those 7 or 10 or whatever things you were going to focus on. The cards help you focus your attention and go, okay, now we want to do these things. Here are resources to do it. Let's learn about that and do those. And at the bottom of every page is a comment section. So if you have thoughts right away, or if you have experiences you want to share, whatever, you put them in the comment section, and the core team here will look at them, and depending on how they think other people could use them, they will incorporate them into the larger body of information that's being built here. And of course, the comments sit there anyway. They'll be available to anybody. So this is going to be an evolving set, and somewhere down the road, a year or two down the road, we will have enough people who understand what we're trying to do here and get sophisticated enough about thinking about it. They will find, this is the wisdom thing again, diverse people interacting will uncover what's been missed, and there will be new patterns, a new set of pattern cards that cover more of what's missed. Certain patterns will be combined, they'll be revised. They might end up with 200 patterns and go, we can't have a card set like this, so we have to trim it down, whatever. Who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Each pattern has 7 patterns that if you want to do this, whatever the pattern is, you need to kind of attend to these other things, because either these things impact the pattern you're working on, or the pattern you're working on impacts those things. So this is what weaves it into a larger whole that we call the pattern language, are these interconnections.
So yes, I guess that leads on to the desire for the use of this actual website, which is, as I understand, there's going to be a community of practice. So people who are engaged in various democratic initiatives and people who are using similar processes, interested in upgrading democracy, can actually get together and use this pattern language to understand at a deeper level what they're already doing, to share best practice, and actually to deepen the pattern language itself, as if I'm correct. Yeah.
Deepen their understanding of what's going on here and how to use it, and then use that deeper understanding to actually evolve the pattern language. It's sort of like a social DNA. This is what things will, if they're replicating towards becoming a wise democracy, this is the way they will evolve, and we will evolve this DNA itself. as we go along to more usefully connect to reality and what our real challenges are and what the conditions on the ground are. And there's a newsletter which you can subscribe to here, which will be coming out at least once a month as a forum for what's going on with us who are doing the organizing of it and research on it, and with the community of practice at large. And we'll have events at very least once a month. I'll just get together with, probably 30, maybe we'll expand it. We'll have to test the technology a bit, but getting together with people who are interested in talking about this, whatever it is they want to talk about. And there are other events we just had one of those online exploration events on the 5th of April. And there are others, like conferences coming up. We want to develop workshops for those conferences, people who are doing, this is a conference on democracy, frontiers of democracy. This is a conference on pattern languages for social change. So where there's relevant conferences, we want to engage with those if we can, if we have the resources to do it, and spread the word through those places. So there'll be lots of places to connect up, lots of things to do to help spread the word, lots of things to do to develop the whole project in ways that are more and more reflective of everybody who's participating in it.
So that's great. Yes. So if people who are watching this already and they're feeling called to get involved with that, and to, once you've delved into this incredible resource and had a look around and you want to get involved, the website itself is www.wd-pl.com. And also you have your own, you've got a couple of other websites, haven't you, Tom, if people want to explore your work?
Yeah. This came out of 30 years of development at the Co-Intelligence Institute.
Mm-hmm.
You just see the connection to the Wise Democracy Project. This website is nowhere near as beautiful as the other one, but it has massive resources. It has articles on many different topics, and co-intelligence, intelligence guided by and nurtures wholeness. Lots of things to understand about that.
Mm-hmm.
Conscious evolution, democracy and politics, wholeness, power, economics, diversity. It just goes on and on, all these different dimensions of this larger worldview. And I have my 4 books that were mentioned at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a number of blogs, including my current one, Random Communications from an Evolutionary Edge, which, once or twice or 3 times every month or 2 has entrance. This is an announcement of the website, announcement of my book, Wisdom of the Fringes, talking about politics and the whole, what is real, what is true, and that issue,
what is fake,
like fake news, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a lot of engagement with the larger implications and possibilities that are represented by the phenomena that are unfolding in our societies and our political system.
Right now. Yep. Great. So thank you so much, Tom. This has been a really fascinating overview of the Wise Democracy, the pattern language, and your work in general. And just want to thank you so much for coming and agreeing to do this interview. And who knows, I imagine there'll be other opportunities in the future to delve into perhaps more specifics of some of these things we've touched on already.
I look forward to it. It'd be interesting if people do some kind of responses to the interview that would help guide, okay, what other things might we delve into more that people might be useful for people?
Absolutely. Very happy for feedback as well. And the kind of things that, if people know that there are other things out there, similar stuff that's going on, and you can help join the dots, and so we can work together to get ourselves out of this big mess that we're in right now.
Right. Actually use the mess as a resource, energetically, informationally, to move to where the mess is pointing us in some very interesting directions. So let's use it rather than just fighting in it and fighting it. Let's figure out how to use it together to move to something more sane and productive.
Amen to that. Great. Thanks so much, Tom. Thank you. And look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.